My grandma refused to say my name until she faced her own. My grandma hasn't called me by my real name in 17 years. She used to braid my hair, hum lullabies, and call me her little sunshine, but never Sienna to modern. She'd scoffed. Instead, she called me Susan after her late sister. Every birthday card, every family dinner. Susan, it wasn't just a name, it was a rejection of who I was. Last Thanksgiving, I couldn't take it anymore. The house smelled of pumpkin pie and old grudges when she slid a gift toward me. Susan stared up from the tag in her shaky cursive. I snapped, "Grandma, my name is Sienna. If you can't say it, don't speak to me." She stiffened her teacup, rattling, "Respect your elders." Susan, that night, I went to the attic, desperate for answers. I found it. A rusted locket side was a picture of a young grandma with a woman I didn't recognize. The engraving read, "Esther and Clara, 1952. Who's Clara?" I asked the next morning, placing the locket in front of her. Her face crumbled. My Esther," she whispered. "Grandma wasn't born Margaret. She was Esther. She'd abandoned her name in college, afraid it was too old-fashioned. Clara was her secret love, the one she never got to say goodbye to. I couldn't bear the guilt," she confessed, "so I buried S." I pressed a locket into her trembling hands. "You're not Margaret, and I'm not Susan." For the first time she looked at me and said Sienna, and in her eyes I saw someone remembering who she once was. My grandma hasn't called me by my real name in 17 years. She used to braid my hair with those soft, gentle fingers, hummed lullabies in that crackly alto voice that always made me feel safe, tucked me into bed, whispering goodnight, my little sunshine. But never, not once, did she call me Sienna. To her, my name was too modern. Sienna, she'd scoff, sounds like a paint color, not a person. So instead, she called me Susan. Every birthday card, every Christmas gift, every family dinner, Susan. It wasn't just a name, it felt like a rejection. Like she was saying, "I don't accept who you are, so I'll pretend you're someone else." Susan, not Sienna. A name I never chose. A name she forced onto me because she loved it. Or rather, because she loved someone else. For years, I swallowed it. Told myself, she's old, it's harmless, let it go. But last Thanksgiving, something inside me snapped. The house smelled like pumpkin pie and old grudges. Laughter echoed through the kitchen while tension simmered beneath every word. My aunts passed around wine like it was an antidote for history, and I sat in silence, waiting to be acknowledged as myself. That's when Grandma slid a little box across the table toward me. A gift, small, wrapped neatly. The tag read, "To Susan, with love." Grandma, her cursive shaky, familiar. I stared at it like it had slapped me. I looked up and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Grandma, my name is Sienna. If you can't say it, don't speak to me at all." The room fell silent. Her teacup rattled against the saucer as she placed it down. "Respect your elders, Suzanne," still refusing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Anger kept turning in my chest, like coals refusing to die out. So I went to the attic, to place of forgotten boxers and half-kept memories. I wasn't sure what I was looking for in Lee, that I needed something to explain why this woman, who once kissed my forehead every morning, now refused to call me by my name. That's when I found it. A rusted silver locket inside an old velvet pouch. Inside, two black and white faces stared back at me. One I recognized instantly, Grandma, but the other, dark-haired woman with a soft smile and piercing eyes, I had never seen before. There was an engraving on the back. Esther and Clara, 1952. I froze. Esther. Who was Esther? The next morning, I placed the locket on the breakfast table, gently sliding it across to Grandma, like she had done with my gift. She looked at it, and her face crumbled. My Esther," she whispered, voice like wind brushing past a tombstone. She didn't look at me, just stared at the locket like it had brought back ghosts. "Grandma," as carefully, "who's Clara?" Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She opened it like it was the first time. "I wasn't born, Margaret," she finally said, eyes never leaving the photograph. "My real name was Esther. Esther Gold." She sighed, deep, heavy. The kind of sigh that holds back years. "I changed it in college. Thought it sounded too old, too Jewish, too different." "And Clara?" I asked again. "She was my friend," she started. Then paused. Double quotes, "No. She was my everything." There was silence. Then she whispered, "I never got to say goodbye." She told me how they had met in secret, away from prying eyes. How they planned to run away together but never did. When Clara died suddenly in an accident, Grandmaster buried more than just her love. She buried herself. "I couldn't bear the guilt," she said. "So I became someone else. Margaret, I married your grandfather. I did what was expected, and I called you Susan because—" Her voice broke. Because Susan was Clara's middle name. My breath caught. She hadn't been rejecting me. She'd been grieving. But grief twisted her love into something unrecognizable. I reached across the table and pressed the locket back into her hands. "You're not Margaret," I said softly. "And I'm not Susan." She finally looked at me. Really looked at me, eyes welling with memory and apology. And then, for the first time in my life, she said it. "Sienna. Just my name. Not Sunshine, not Susan. Just me." And in her eyes, I saw not just the grandmother I'd known, but a woman remembering who she once was, and letting me finally be who I am. Story to the Sun was setting over the picturesque European town of Brugge, casting a warm glow on the cobblestone streets. Michael and Lena had built a life together in this beautiful city, but what once felt like a fairy tale was about to unravel. Their 5-year marriage was, on the surface, filled with laughter and love. But beneath that facade lay a churning sea of unresolved issues and hidden desires. It began innocently enough, with a casual conversation over dinner about their future and desires. Lena, always the adventurous spirit, had broached the topic of open relationships. "Imagine the freedom, Michael," she said, her blue eyes sparkling with excitement. "We could explore without restrictions. It could bring us closer." Michael, feeling the weight of his insecurities, initially hesitated. He had always been the more conventional one, valuing their commitment above all else. Yet his love for Lena compelled him to consider her proposal. "If it makes you happy, I can try," he agreed, dismissing the gnawing anxiety in his gut. As the days turned into weeks, Lena embraced her newfound freedom with zeal. Nights out with friends turned into weekends spent away, all under the guise of self-exploration. Michael, meanwhile, found himself grappling with jealousy and loneliness. He thought he could handle it, but each passing day felt like a slow erosion of their once solid bond. One fateful evening, Michael returned home earlier than expected, eager to surprise Lena with a candlelit dinner. As he entered their quaint apartment, something felt amiss. The atmosphere was heavy, charged with unspoken tension. A flicker of doubt gnawed at him, but he shook it off. Focusing on the excitement of seeing Lena, however, when he opened the bedroom door, his world shattered. Lena lay intertwined with another man, laughter spilling from their lips like poison. The man, a tall and handsome stranger, froze upon noticing Michael. Lena's laughter faded into silence as her eyes widened in shock. "Michael, I can explain," she stammered, but he was already turning away, his heart pounding in his chest. The betrayal cut deep. Michael felt as though the ground had fallen away beneath him. He stumbled back into the living room, the image of Lena's infidelity seared into his mind. How could she do this? The very woman he had trusted with his heart was now lying in bed with another man. Her freedom had turned into a weapon against him. Days turned into a blur of anger and sadness. Michael confronted Lena, but her explanations felt hollow. You agreed to this, Michael. You wanted me to be happy, she shouted, tears streaming down her face. But Michael felt like a ghost in his own home, haunted by memories of their love and the harsh reality of betrayal. His heart ached, but deep down, he knew he couldn't let her actions go unpunished. He began to plot his revenge, a slow burn of determination igniting within him. Michael immersed himself in work, using the office as an escape from the suffocating weight of his emotions. Yet, the idea of revenge lingered in the corners of his mind. Refusing to fade, he started gathering evidence of Lena's infidelity. He observed her behaviors, keeping track of her late nights and questionable excuses. Each time she returned home, he felt the familiar pang of hurt, mixed with the exhilaration of plotting his retribution. He discovered Lena was seeing multiple men, each more charming than the last. It fueled his desire for revenge, and he knew he had to act. Weeks passed, and Michael's plan began to take shape. He learned of a gathering hosted by a mutual friend, a celebration of sorts. He knew Lena would be the center of attention. The thought of confronting her in front of their friends sent a rush of adrenaline through him. This was the moment he had been waiting for. The night of the party arrived, and Michael put on his best facade. He wore a tailored suit that made him feel confident, ready to face Lena and her entourage. As he entered the lively atmosphere of the party, laughter and music filled the air. He spotted Lena across the room, her laughter ringing out like a siren's call. Flanked by her latest fling, a man with striking features and an arrogant smile. Every nerve in Michael's body screamed at him to confront her, but he held back, biding his time. He approached the bar, ordering a drink to steady his nerves as he watched Lena. A mixture of anger and sorrow bubbled within him. She was enjoying her freedom, flaunting it in a way that felt cruel. As the night progressed, Michael saw Lena grow more reckless. She was flirting openly, her laughter echoing through the crowded room. The pain in his chest morphed into a determination he couldn't ignore. He approached her, heart pounding, ready to execute his plan. "Lena," he said, his voice steady, yet low enough to avoid drawing attention. She turned, surprise washing over her features. "Michael, what are you doing here?" she asked, a hint of nervousness in her tone. "I think it's time we talked," he replied, gesturing towards the crowd. "You've been having quite a time, haven't you?" As they dived deeper into the twists of this story, I'd love for you to join our storytelling family here at Lauren's Story. If you're captivated so far, why not take a second to tap that subscribe button? Each new story brings you a front row seat to unforgettable journeys, ones that just might resonate with your own. Let's continue and see how this story unfolds. Her eyes narrowed, and for a moment he saw the flicker of guilt, but she quickly masked it with defiance. "This is my life, Michael. You agreed to this." The room grew quiet as their friends began to notice the tension. Michael knew he had to make a statement. "You want to see how freedom looks." He pulled out his phone, revealing a series of videos he had captured over KAF. The past weeks, Lena's late-night rendezvous, the flirty texts, the laughter shared with other men. Gasps echoed in the room as the footage played on his screen. Lena's face turned pale, her bravado crumbling as she realized what was happening. "Michael, please, this isn't fair," she pleaded. "But the damage was done. I didn't want it to come to this," he said, "but you forced my hand. You wanted freedom, joy the consequences." His voice was steady as he turned to leave. The whispers of their friends filled the air, their gazes shifting between Michael and Lena. Unsure of how to react, as he walked away, a sense of vindication washed over him. He had taken control, reclaiming his narrative. In the aftermath of betrayal, the sting of revenge felt sweet, but it was tainted with sorrow. He had loved Lena once, and now that love lay in ruins. Days turned into weeks as the aftermath of the party unfolded. Lena was left to face the consequences of her actions, and Michael found solace in his newfound freedom. He threw himself into work, forging connections with colleagues who respected his determination and strength. The emptiness that had once consumed him began to fade. Yet, as he navigated life without Lena, he found himself grappling with feelings he hadn't anticipated. He missed the companionship they had shared, the laughter that once filled their home, but he reminded himself that the betrayal had shattered their bond. And he had to move forward. One evening, as Michael prepared dinner, he received a message from Lena. "I'm so sorry, Michael. I never meant to hurt you." The weight of her words hung in the air, and for a moment he felt the familiar tug of nostalgia. He stared at his phone, contemplating his response. The truth was, he had moved on. He had learned the hard way that some doors should remain closed. "It's too late, Lena. You made your choice." He typed back, hitting send before he could change his mind, as the sun dipped below the horizon. Michael felt a sense of closure wash over him. He had claimed his life, his dignity, and his future. He understood that true liberation didn't come from an open relationship or the actions of others. It came from within. The pain of betrayal would linger, but he was no longer defined by it. He had faced the storm, emerged battered but stronger, and was ready to embrace whatever came next. The memories of Lena faded like the sunset, giving way to the promise of a new dawn.